when I'm at a tournament, it's just a blank slate. I go in there and I try to work from court to court. It's like 60, 80 courts in there. Every court, like 3.5 minutes. If you can't do anything within 3.5 minutes, I'm like off to the next one.
Like, have you ever reached the burnout stage?
I'm past the burnout. I've reached that 5 years ago. I'm just motivated, driven because I would say parents or kids, they drive me, if that makes sense.
That's good. That's real good. Like, I'll be honest and say, for me, I feel like with AAU, like being a director, like I've hit like a burnout. And then I'm like, pretty much what you said, like once you hear like those kids coming to you or like those parents telling you different things, it's like, all right, like I'm good.
Girls are not secondary to us. They're first and foremost. They're watching to see what we do. We know we're trendsetters. We may not have a lot of followers compared to other ones who have, financial support and backing. We're independent. We're in the streets. So that's what makes us different.
Did you know that I have 2 books? One called The Little Girl, Big Dreams. It's about an ambitious little girl who overcomes every no to say yes to a dream. The other is called Changing Lanes. It teaches you about the things that you learn from sport and how it translates to life after sport. Be sure to check these out at itsjustdifferentpod.com. Let's get to the episode. Welcome to the It's Just Different podcast, where we bring on people who have been where you are trying to go and or have helped countless athletes get there. I am your host, Ashley Roberts, former collegiate player, serial entrepreneur, and today we have a special guest, been in the game since 2011, covering girls basketball and just trying to provide exposure and coverage on the girls' side. Founder of Pass the Ball, Marissa. Welcome to the episode, to the podcast, I shall say.
Yeah, thank you for having me and reaching out too. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to talk all things girls basketball. I know you on the road. We were talking before we actually got started. And you all over covering games and covering events, huh?
Yeah, definitely. Just trying to be that platform to see what's next, on the scene. So we already know about those top athletes, but I want to see what else is coming up.
And where are you right now?
Right now, I am in Waco. I just got back last night at like 1 a.m. So I was at the I was at the Big 12 conference for Media Day out there in Kansas City, showing love to college players. It was good seeing like some of the old faces that we covered in high school and middle school. So it's always good seeing older players doing their thing and, achieving their goals at the next level.
And what's the next event you going to?
Next event is the ladies' ball. We finished up this weekend out in Virginia Beach, so that one should be pretty good. All the teams that won the championships and the regionals, are going out to Virginia Beach to play in the final national championship. Then after that, it's getting ready for the CP3 camp. So that's finishing up with them. So that'll be pretty cool too.
Busy. Okay. Well, we like to start this podcast with things that are different, whether good or bad. So I do want to ask you, what do you think is different as it relates to women's basketball as a whole?
What do I think is different? I would say there's more media outlets now, because I remember when I started, hardly anybody. I was just like, it really made it seem like I was the only one doing it for girls basketball. I remember just praying. I was just like, man, one day I hope people see it through my eyes as well. What I see, like as far as like the girls game is like really good. Like no one gets to see it. So I'm just glad it finally caught a wave and people are now wanting to cover it from all levels. So very happy about that. So I'm glad to see the girls growing, through a social media platform.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, and I think that's good to see. Now, how did you get started? I know you've been in it since 2011. How did Pass the Ball get started?
Yeah, definitely. So I graduated from Sam Houston State. So while I was in school, mass communications, radio, television, film, broadcast journalism, that was my major. That's something I wanted to do. And I also hooped. So it was just like, let me just put 2 and 2 together since no one's really covering it, especially girls basketball. So I was just like, well, I went home. I was applying to jobs as well. So no one was hiring in my field. So I went back home and was just like, well, let me kick it off with this tournament that I know here locally and just keep, grinding it out and see what happens. So I did that and just, picked up the camera, started filming local high school girls basketball and cover the players that, were pretty well known in the area and they were pretty good. So just kept going after that. And now I'm here.
You were doing tournaments and you were doing events in 2011?
2011, like I had graduated, went back home. So December 2010, well, December 2010 was when I was like, let me go back to this local Christmas tournament that I know
Mhm.
pretty good that everybody played in. So I was, started there covering. That's where I kicked it off at. Picked up
Mhm.
the camera, started video highlights. No one really knew what it was because like you don't see that. So back then we were posting on Facebook, so and just tagging players. So yeah, just I would say it started there. I would say Brittany Boyd was the first player that I covered. She was pretty big at Cal, and then went to got drafted to play at the New York Liberty. And then after that, like players from SoCal was just like pretty good too. So I started traveling down there. It was Kelsey Plum, Jordan Canada, just a whole bunch of really good players. So it just kept going after that.
Now, did you know what you was doing, or you just was like, "Let me just pick up this camera"?
Well, yeah, I mean, because like I said, I had learned in college, so they teach you how to use it. This was
Mm,
before YouTube was even a thing. Like you didn't go in there looking for tutorials, so it's just like
yeah,
what I learned in school, just chopping up the videos, and that was pretty much it. It wasn't because we use handhelds, which was on film, so we didn't have the SD cards. Nothing was digital, so we just kind of had to use the school's equipment. And then when I upgraded my equipment, then it went digital. So I was just like, okay, cool. Yeah, just started chopping things up, seeing because I always looked at Ball is Life because they were the only other boys platform going. So Ball is Life and Hoop Mixtape, those two were the only ones back then. So then I was just like, okay, you got to put a beat to it. Okay, you got to chop it
yeah,
like this, with certain things. So that's how I went. I went off of them.
yeah. Make us sound old, why don't you? Handhelds. Oh my, that's crazy. So I obviously know what pass the ball is, and I'm sure a lot of people know what pass the ball, but there are some people who don't. Like, what exactly is pass the ball?
Basically, it's just like how do I say it, like a FUBU type thing, a for us by us. It's for the girls platform. If you're a hooper, and you appreciate it, especially the dads too, they always come on there looking to see, okay, how good is how good are these players compared to my daughter, or just trying to pick up certain workouts, or who's in the gym. So that's pretty much what it is. It's just a platform for girls basketball. uh, and basically it's like a network, like as far as like I
Mm-hmm.
wish more players would reach back out once they graduate, like, hey, I got this idea, okay, cool, let's work on it and let's put it together. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what I really would like for people to do, that especially the ones that we cover graduated, and if they don't have really a sense of what they want to do but they have a good idea, I wish they would just reach out more and be like, hey, I want to do this, can you help me, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I'm assuming when you first started, it was pretty much just recording games,
yes, it
and
was just, yeah.
it looks
As
like
far as
it's just kind of expanded. Um,
Yeah, it has, because when I first started, of course, we was doing it was just a longer process too. But
mhm,
of course, filming highlights, and parents would reach out, okay, can you come do my daughter? So then that's how the business gets started or created, because other players might want this. So this looks cool, or
mhm.
maybe this could get recruited, or I could send this off to a college coach or a program. So yeah, it just started going through there. I started posting videos on YouTube, and then other people actually who started seeing them, like Ray Caldwell, San Antonio's finest. He was the first person to see it and bring me out to Texas, and shoot
Let's
his
not
program.
glance over that name. Shout out to Ray Caldwell, one of my mentors. I love that guy.
For sure. So he had brought me out. That's when they had Rasay Caldwell, Amber Ramirez, Melissa Smith, all before before who they were, who they are now. But Kiana Williams, it's just a whole bunch of players. So I was just grateful that he did that, and then I got to showcase some Texas talent. And then from there, like I said, of course, I had before that, you had Mariah Jefferson and Alexis Jones out there, so I was covering them too. So it was just a lot of talent in Texas back then.
Yeah, you naming all the goats, all
Yeah,
of the goats.
I wish I would have started just a tad bit sooner, because there was more coming through there. If I would have got the
Mhm.
Aguma case, I would have got Sydney Colson. Like everybody was like really good. Kelsey Bone. Well, I did do Brittany Griner and Kelsey Bone at that
Yeah.
time, but right before them.
Now you done named a lot of different names from Dallas to San Antonio to Houston. Back then, who had the most talent?
Like as far as teams or a player or like
Players. Who
state.
had the most players out of Dallas, Houston, San Antonio? Who would you say had the most caliber of players, talent wise?
It still may have been Dallas, but Houston was right there too. Like I say, Houston kind of fell off the map more than anybody else as of right now. But
Mm-hmm.
Dallas and Houston was like neck and neck, I would say, because there was a lot of talent coming out of there.
I was hoping you was gonna say Dallas. It definitely was Dallas. No, but
Because
so
I was hearing MacArthur had all the good players,
you
and
said
then I
what?
think MacArthur, when they had Odyssey Sims, and they had some other players too that was
Had
there too. But
Alexis, and I don't really want to talk about that because MacArthur knocked us out every
ooh,
year. Like every year. It was Duncanville and MacArthur and they beat us.
hmm
We just couldn't. First it was Odyssey. We just, I ain't gonna lie, we couldn't stop her. And then they got Alexis and it was just, yeah. They beat
for
us every
sure.
year. But it's all right. It's all right though. So it like obviously when you first started, it was mainly just high school, like high school events that you were doing.
Yeah, it was just high school, like because I at the time I didn't know how to get into college, and college wasn't even a thought to me to even try to do. I was just like, you got to start with one thing. I thought,
Yeah.
but middle school came later, college came later because the players that we covered moved on. So I was like, well, I think it might be cool to actually go and see them play too, and keep
Yeah.
the coverage.
And when did you actually get into covering college?
I would say it may have been 2 to 3 years later because I think Brittany Boyd was like either a junior or senior that year. She went to Cal, and I was like, I think I might want to go still see her play because Cal actually made a run
Hmm.
at, by the time they were juniors and seniors. So, yeah, I would say within 2 to 3 years, I was covering college too.
And was that like a different process, or was it as simple as just going to the games and getting coverage?
You know what? I just basically just scripted off a professional type email to like
Hmm.
one of the SIDs, and I was just like, because like college kind of teaches you certain things. You learn the marketing class or how to write a email, a professional
Hmm.
email. Hey, I covered Brittany. I would like to continue that coverage, and it's like that. Not like they were getting a lot of coverage anyway. I don't see why you would say no to somebody, but yeah, they were like, "Yeah, cool. Just come on down. We have your passes at the gate and everything, whatever you need." So
Got it.
it was
All
cool.
right. So you went from high school, middle school, doing all of that to covering individual players at college. Like I've seen different events. When did the events come? What did that look like for you?
I think the events came like 3 to 4 years later because I was like, I forgot where I got the idea, but I was just not necessarily an idea, but there really weren't that many showcases back then. But at that time, I think what grade? Because I remember some of the players that were there. Deja Kelly, especially. Rory Harmon was like in the sixth grade when she came to our camp. She was killing. Deja Kelly was she in the sixth grade or seventh grade? It was.
Been doing it for a
it
while. These kids are in college and you talking about sixth grade. That's crazy.
so I say I feel like a triple OG and it's bad. I'm like I see him seeing them and I'm just like that's why I need to switch lanes because it's just like you can't keep doing the same thing forever. But I was like then, and I did it with Semi Coast on a girls prep report,
Hmm.
and then it was really good. Like just to see all them kids in the gym and going at it. It was cool to see them when they're kids. You know what I'm saying? And then they all grow up and go to college and do their thing. So yeah, I just decided to do a camp. It was so much talent at that time. I was like, why not?
Right. And what all events do you host now?
Right now, we host, I would say, two All Star games, one All American game that we do every stop at the Women's Final Four because we always take them to the game. This year it's in Cleveland, and then we do showcases too. We do either one or two a year, and then we're trying to like actually have one tournament under our belt that's just ours.
Yeah.
So we're
So
working on that.
so what's the difference between the showcase and the all-star?
A showcase is kind of like open. It's not necessarily select group sometimes, but you
Hmm.
keep it open just to see who might come through as far as like somebody we don't know.
Hmm.
So showcase where you'll have like 65, 70, 80 girls in the gym and then they'll go, of course, take them to skill work and then also they'll play games and then kind of can see what they can do, get them on film and stuff like that. If they do well, then we'll invite them to the All-Star game.
Got
That's
it.
always before school starts.
And all-star, what are the grades for the all-star games?
Uh, like fifth through high school.
Okay.
So we just have 4 games, two younger classmen, and then upper high school level games, and we'll just
Okay.
select girls throughout who we seen throughout the summer. That's in
And
Texas, probably Oklahoma.
Makes sense. And then the last one was you said All American game.
Yeah, the All American game is who we seen throughout the summer that really killed. So this is like I didn't like we had a middle school game, a eighth grade game last year, so we'll probably end up continuing that too. So it's who we seen throughout the country over the summer. So there was a lot of good kids playing on different circuits. So our list is not biased, it's not catered to one shoe affiliation brand or whatever. It was like, man, if they was hooping, they were hooping. So that's why I like our list because it's like who we won, who we seen get buckets, if that makes sense. Like they're the
Yeah.
real deal.
So, like you just said, there are a lot of circuits. There are a ton of players. Obviously, you're not gonna catch all the players. Like, how do you determine? How does pass the ball determine what events to hit?
It's mainly the ones that have been around the longest, if that makes sense. So, of course, we go to Boo Williams every year. That's just what we. That's just what you did, starting from back then. So, go to Boo Williams or try to hit Ray's events. Of course, she's balling. One of his events that has good Texas teams, and then also everything's kind of on the East Coast. So that's where you go. Of course, I go to Run for the Roses. You go to the Under Armour. You try to hit the Adidas circuit. Like I hit all those circuits this year. So that's what I try to do, hit the circuits and the non-shoe circuit teams. And I go to Insider Exposure too. John McGraw does a great job of what he does independently. So yeah, I try to hit those main ones that I know who have teams there.
Now, please tell me you're not a team of one. Is it just you going to all of these events?
Yeah, I do go to all of the events, but if there's something like that's manageable where somebody else can go do it, I'll just send another shooter over there to go get what we need. But yeah, it's basically my eyes. It's like I don't mind being in the gym and seeing new talent and just who, because it's like you can only do what you do. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Can't nobody else do what you do. So I see what I see and I do what I do. So that's what I like doing. And I just like being in the gym and seeing what else is coming up because I don't think, you know what I'm saying, somebody else's opinion or if I go send a shooter, they may not know because of course they like the boys side, but
Yeah.
just being honest, no one else is gonna know what I know, if that makes sense. Same for
Now that
you.
does make sense. Now, are you hitting the events, doing the write ups, getting everything ready for the tournaments? Like, are you doing all of that?
Yeah, pretty much. Sometimes I do have help, but if it's something easy that I know somebody else can do. But as far as events, once you start throwing them, you know what you need. It's not hard.
Hmm.
And then as far as like write ups, we do have a writer who does it. If I'm not there, he's been in the game forever. Bob Corwin, he does all the writing at different events. Whichever event he want to go to, he goes and writes about it. Me, I'll do a little bit if I need to, but I'm like writing names down just so I can go back and see what they did. But when I'm at a tournament, it's just a blank slate. I go in there and I try to work from court to court. You know, it's like 60, 80 courts in there.
Hmm.
But I every court like 3.5 minutes. If you can't do anything within 3.5 minutes, I'm like off to the next court. That's just what it is. You should be able to see something in 3.5 minutes.
That's a great point. That was actually something I was gonna ask you. Like, how do you like spot what you're gonna look at? How long you at a court? Because there's so many
Mhm.
courts and there's so many players.
Right, exactly. Especially you also have to look at the schedule to see like it's because it's like when they did Run for the Roses, it was like three other events within that event. So it's just like you got to see who's over there first, and then just break down the schedule, or and then trying to weed your way through to see if any team names sound familiar. And then sometimes if you go see a team play, and then the other team actually is really good, then it's like okay, you find a new player to watch or a new team to catch. So that's just basically how I do it. I don't know what everybody else does. They may have a different agenda, but me, I'm 3.5 minutes and I'm out.
Right. So I know like college coaches when they're going to the tournaments, obviously they got a board. They got a good amount of like kids on their list that they know they are going to see. Like, is that the same for you? Like, do you kind of have a list or is it just totally different since you're just kind of covering the whole tournament?
Yeah, I mostly freestyle. That's just how I go about things. As far as college coaches, I know they have a list because they rely on scouting services to feed them information on, and somebody else to break scheduling down and stuff like that. So they already have a list of, they already have their agenda set, who they want
Mm-hmm.
to see. If I already know who those kids are, I don't need to go back and over there to see them. So I'm just like, who's next over here in the young class? Who did we not see? So that's my agenda, just to see who else is coming up or showing out.
Man, I feel like that is so hard. Like, like trying to court, trying to like spot talent, and then like you said, like you really only got like 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes. You know, if said player not having a good moment or something like that, like they don't miss that opportunity. So I feel like it is so hard.
It is, yeah, definitely. I mean, like I said, I like seeing players more than once because
Yeah,
that time they not that good. Well, then at least you know what to go off of. They're normal, so you know players are going to have bad games. They're going to have good games. There's been plenty of time I've seen top players have stink up the place and not do well at all. So, but the thing is, when that happens, it's like players really got to figure out, okay, how else can I make a difference in this game? So,
for sure.
um, that's what I like to see. If they're having an off game, okay, what else is she doing? Or is she just pouting the whole time? So
Hmm. And you mentioned scouting service. Do y'all have a scouting service?
we do, but we don't use it, and that's bad just because I don't have a person to run it. So um so it's easier to either join up with somebody or have somebody else that really knows what they're doing, but I don't have the time for it. I can't keep adding
Yeah.
on my plate.
All right. So if it's anybody out there that's looking to help pass the ball, looking to do something, got an eye for a scouting talent or whatever, hit up Marissa. She might be looking for somebody.
Nice plug.
She might be looking for somebody. So you mentioned earlier that one of the things that you like to see is there are a lot of media outlets now. What would you say like makes pass the ball different from other media companies or media outlets?
Well, one, we're really in the field and we actually love this. Like,
Yeah.
if you notice, compared to everybody else, you just have to see how do they start off. If you know they started off on the boys' side and just created a girls' page, which then you know where their stance is with. So it's
Right.
just like girls are not secondary to us; they're first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we differentiate ourselves from other platforms. And then plus, like they're watching to see what we do. We know we're trendsetters. We know we may not have a lot of followers compared to other ones who have financial support and backing. We're independent. We're in the streets. So
Love it.
so that's what makes us different.
Do you
So we
feel
write
that
our
is Oh, go ahead, sorry.
I just said we write our own narrative.
I love that. I love that. Now, do you feel that is difficult because, in a sense, y'all are covering, I would just say, all things women's basketball from youth, AAU to high school to college to professional? Like, do you feel that it's like hard to do all of that? To be in so many different places, covering so many different, what's the word I want to look for? I guess so many different sectors.
I don't feel it as hard. It seems normal to my day in life, so I can't
Hmm.
speak for somebody else. But I know, like, there's certain platforms they cover WNBA. Well, WNBA needs it. I'm not gonna lie. Like, there are girls who
Hmm.
are like, I watch high school. You know what I'm saying? Mixtapes, or I know more of the high school players, which is great. But I understand the WNBA needs outlets too. So we'll
Hmm.
cover. We'll definitely cover. Like I said, those players that we covered in high school. Well, hey, like we're not just gonna stop covering them, if that makes sense. So we'll still post them and try to see what they're doing and keep up with whatever they got going on. Luckily, they have these WNBA teams have a social content creators to put out content so we can have something to look and see and find. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of these college programs, it's just like there's been some of them I would say like a few years ago when I was just like, why don't they have any content? It's so hard to find stuff on them.
Yeah.
Like to me, to be honest, UConn to me, I thought did the best job as far as coverage because if I miss their game, I know they're going to have highlights on their YouTube channel. Like make it easy for us to find this content so we can cover college. So I just wish more programs kind of did that, had them on YouTube, have stuff on Twitter, have stuff on Instagram, just stuff that we can find and pull. You don't have to be the biggest program, but if you have good players and talented players that want more exposure, trying to build their brand, have this content available for media outlets. That's what I
Right.
would like.
Now that makes sense. And do you, because it sounds like you're talking a lot about like individual players. Obviously, I know that you cover events as well. What do you prefer? Do you prefer doing like individual player coverage or covering a whole event?
Mm. Obviously, if you just covering a player, that's easy. I don't have to focus
You
on.
just got
So I'm
one
gonna
thing
go.
to focus on.
Exactly. So I'm just focusing on that one player. So I'm gonna go with that one. So yeah, that's easier.
Yeah.
I'm
Now,
a work smarter, not harder type person at this age. So
you say what?
I'm a work smarter, not harder type person at this age.
I feel that. I feel that. And I was obviously looking on social media. I saw that, well, you said it actually too, that you were at the Big 12 event, getting coverage. So for me, I'm still like a little confused of like, okay, how does that work? As far as Big 12, was that you reaching out to somebody like, hey, can I come out and get some coverage of this? Or like, what did that look like?
It was basically a conversation. I was actually trying to get a position with the Big 12 because it's like stuff I already know and stuff I already do. But it was just a LinkedIn conversation that I hit the marketing manager up, and we just had a conversation. It took him a minute to respond, but he just got to follow up. So we had a conversation, and then, I told him what I did, and he seen our platform. He was like, "Oh, okay, you guys do a great job." So, and then I would say a few weeks later, he was like, "I'll keep you posted on stuff that we have going on that I would like you to be at." So it was like, "Are you available October 17th?" So I was like, "Yeah, I'll definitely come through." So they paid for the flight and everything. So I was just like, "All right, I'm there. Whatever y'all need, I can do it." So,
Yeah.
and
So,
that's about.
so do they typically, like when you do these different events, are they typically just like paying for you to get there, or is it like a contract that you get for your services? Or are you using
Yes.
that just for exposure?
It could be a little bit of both, and then just also building on a relationship depending on who that company is.
Mm-hmm.
So I know if that can benefit us or it's mutual, then you know what I'm saying. It's just like, in exchange for like, okay, this is in good faith. I would like to continue doing business with you. Hope it'll grow to something financial, bigger and everything like that. But as far as everyone else who has like a platform or who's doing tournaments, because tournament directors reach out all the time. Yes, got to cover my travel, got to cover, expenses, fees, whatever, my services, because that's time. This is my job. This is what I do. This is full time. So I got bills just like everybody else.
Yeah. And you in the gym pretty much every single weekend.
This month has been crazy. Every weekend is something. That's why I'm like, people might are probably like, well, why weren't you there? Such and such. Well, I'm going to the place that pays my bills, helps me pay my bills. I'm not chasing anymore. Trust me, I already did that. I'm beyond that. I don't
Hmm.
chase events. So I'm
So
like, if you want me,
what does you say what?
if they want me, they got to reach out, sign a contract, things like that. So that's what we're on. That's the wave that we're on. That's when you get older, you start to see, hey, this has to be in line with because you got goals too. You want to reach them. So
Hmm.
this all has to be in place if you're trying to reach those goals.
Yeah. Let me ask you, just curious, like, have you ever reached the burnout stage?
I'm past the burnouts. I reached that 5 years ago. I'm going off of fumes still, and this is like what 6 years later. Yeah, I'm just going. I'm just motivated, driven because I would say parents or kids, they drive me, if that makes sense. Sometimes you
Hmm.
just need the feedback, like, because sometimes you get to a phase where like, why are you doing this? You know what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
then the like, man, thank you so much. Man, I appreciate it. You really did a great job on, this event was great. Love what you do. Keep doing it. So that's what kind of like, all right, this is what I'm doing. Gives you more motivation. So you're not running on it. That pretty much allows you not to run on E, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Encourage words. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Nah, that's good. That's real good. Like, I'll be honest and say for me, I feel like with AAU, like being a director, like I've hit like a burnout, and then I'm like, pretty much what you said. Like once you hear
Mhm.
like those kids coming to you or like those parents telling you different things, it's like, all right, like I'm good. I had a I had a kid that I coached a long time ago, actually in high
Mhm.
school. And she sent me a message when I released the podcast. She was listening to the podcast and like just send me a note of just like how I was on her. Something happened and I was on her and she'll never forget it and how it's changed her life. And it's like
Right.
things like that make you be like, you got to stay in it. You got to keep doing it. And it just gives you that motivation. Like, all
Right.
right, I can do this. It ain't that bad.
Yeah, then of course, like your parents too can be like, or because I know my mom, she was like, just stick with it, it'll pay
Hmm.
off eventually. So I'm just like,
Hmm.
yeah, how long is this room? But you do have to have patience sometimes and just keep the faith. Something your time is coming. You just got to keep saying that.
For sure, for sure. When did Pass the Ball hit that breakout?
You say that, but I'm just like, I still don't think we've reached where we need to be, honestly. Like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you can look at our amount of followers, but honestly, that doesn't mean anything to me right now, or that doesn't it doesn't justify who we are, if that makes sense. I don't think we've even taken off yet.
Yeah. Yeah, let me actually rephrase that. Like when did you, obviously we all start businesses and we have our own visions. Like we know this can work. But at the same time, every last one of us also have our doubts. Like, okay, is this really worth it or can this work? For you, like when did it click to you like this is it? Like I'm doing this.
Um, when, well, I always wanted to do it. It's
Yeah.
crazy because I always knew what I wanted to do, and I already knew this was my lane. And for me to, in order to stick around basketball, because that's my passion, that's what I love.
Mhm.
So it's just like, I already knew that was going to be my route. I just didn't know how it was going to take care of me, if that made sense.
Mhm.
Um, and so I mean, when I first started, like I had a part time job in order for me to like stay on the road. Like I'm funding my own self, and that's what you got to do. Um, so yeah, I would say it started going maybe year 3 and 4 because I was like everybody was watching like the top kids that I was putting out. That was fine,
Uh-huh.
but I think I would say when I started going down to SoCal a lot, I think it really started to take off because people were noticing like these kids that were pretty good. Like I said, when you got Jordan Canada down there and like Kelsey Plum, those were some really good kids. And then catching Sabrina Ionescu when she's like in the ninth grade, I remember literally like running out to the parking lot after this game because did they lose? They may have lost, but she still like gave Bishop O'Dowd buckets because they had a lineup. I
Mhm.
ran out to the parking lot and I was like, "What is your name?" I'm like, because it was just like this white girl killing these girls. Like, who is this lanky white girl? But yeah, Sabrina Ionescu. Who else was it?
And
It
then
was just a
seeing her
lot of.
now, like what?
I'm like, send us some shoes.
Come
So it's just
on.
like that. Yeah, Haley Jones too. I seen her in the sixth grade, and I was just like, because she was playing point guard and she was tall. I'm like, who is this? It's just crazy how they blossomed into who they are now. It's just crazy to see. Like, dang. I mean, I understand. See, that's what I'm saying. You can only see what you see.
Yeah.
That's why I say. That's why I'm like, I can see you see something in some kids that's different than somebody else. But
And that's
that's why I
dope. It's
said, I,
like you got an eye. Like you gotta have like that special eye for that. That's dope.
yeah, yeah,
That's
true.
dope to see. Like, and I think that's the honestly that's the beauty of like sports, right? Being in sports, like seeing kids like all these names, like you literally talking about them in the sixth grade, in the seventh grade, in the eighth grade, and now they in the WNBA, they playing overseas, they in college, like just being able to see them grow into better basketball players, but better women. Like I love to see that. I love to hear that.
Yeah, definitely. No, I agree with you because it's not easy. Trust me. I know the route is a lot harder for them than it is for male counterparts.
Right.
That's why I was like at the time when I was going, I kind of started out. I'm like, should I do boys? I mean, I feel out of my element, but I know they could go to the NBA a lot faster than these
Mm-hmm.
girls. You see, so it's just like, let me just stay here.
Yeah, stay with what you know you want to do.
Right.
Now you said year 3 or 4. Did you was that like around the time when you quit your job? Like I know you said now you're full time.
Right. Yeah. I think I did quit. It's been a while. I can't even remember when. I actually got fired just literally because of basketball. I took too many days off in July, and you had how long you got to be on the road in July. So it's just
You
like,
was like, man, forget this job. I got to hit these events.
exactly. So that was my stance on it. So yeah, I would say once I quit, then I was just like locked in. Okay, how do I figure out how to make this a living? So have events, sell merchandise. Those were like the first two. Later on, we added live stream. So yeah, that's pretty much. I would say year 3 or 4. That's when I
Got
was
it.
just like I'm locked in.
Speaking of July, what do you think about the new calendar?
I didn't even see it, so I'm like everybody knows, but I'm like the last one. I'm always asking other people, "Oh, it changed." All right, so
Yeah.
what new schedule? Who's having what? So yeah, I asked
Like
other people who are into that.
yeah,
That's not
like
my
the end of July is crazy. Like
this
parents are
year.
gonna be gone.
This year was crazy. Like it went so long. I was tired. I'm like,
Yeah.
where do these get this money from?
And I feel like this upcoming season is gonna be worse because like they moved the beginning to the end. So like it's a long stretch at the end. So if you traveling, like parents will be I think they gone for like 15 days or something like that. 14, it's a
Dang.
long time. I don't know if it was I need to look. I don't know if it's exactly 15, but it might be close to that. It's a long time. So I'm
Yeah,
like,
because
how these parents
I
gonna
had
take off work?
exactly because I put a tweet out about that, and I was like, "How much did y'all spend this year?" And somebody was up to like 10,000 or something. I'm like, "What? How many kids
Yeah.
y'all got?"
Yeah, it's definitely expensive. But it's almost like it's tough because I feel like you have to do it and then like trying to figure out like which tournaments. Like I know being in Texas, a lot of people are like trying to have events in Texas, which is good, but it's like, okay, are the coaches gonna be there? Like you gotta go to the events where the coach is at. So I feel like it's hard.
It is hard, but I would like see if I was a coach, if I knew what type of caliber kids I had,
Mhm.
I'm not traveling. I don't. There's no need to travel, especially I'm in Texas. You know what quality tournaments to go to when you're
For
nearby.
sure.
That's the thing. But if you're not good and you're playing on XYZ, coaches still ain't gonna come out to you anyway.
Regardless.
So
Yeah.
it's
But
kind of
let me
like,
ask you though, like July, let's take this past season, July. Where would you have went in Texas?
what was going on out here?
You
Because I'm
had
never here.
so you had let me see, what was July? Beginning of July, you had Ray. So actually we went to Ray's event. You had She's Balling. I mean you
Yeah,
had Blueprint.
I would always go to his events.
Yeah, so we had Blueprint and then but after that, the back half of July, that's when you got New Orleans, that's when you got Run for the Roses, you got Chicago, um Select
Yeah,
40s in Pennsylvania.
so PBR didn't have anything.
I think they did, but I don't think it was any coaches there.
Oh, got you.
Yeah,
Okay,
because I know
so
they did Neville, which was the beginning of July. But it was like it really wasn't any coaches there. And I think they
right.
did something at the end of July.
Well, I know USA did, so it was like you got invited to that. If you that was in Memphis, that was
Yeah,
towards
that
the
was the
end of.
end. So once the end, but during that July 20th, 24th through the 24th time, like it really wasn't nothing in Texas. So it's like, okay, where do you go? Like
Yeah,
we ended up
true.
going
Oh,
to New Orleans.
and that was a pretty good look because as long as
It,
they're under one roof, that's what you got to look at.
mm-hmm.
Then still pretty much benefiting. At least you don't have to go from court to court. Everybody is still there. So if you look at that and strategize and be like, okay, where the coach is at. Okay, they're going to be in New Orleans still. They still got good teams, but they're all under one roof. Okay, that's cool. That checks off your your checkbox. You're not traveling extremely far. You can drive to New Orleans. That's fine.
Right.
And then also another tournament I would look at was probably is literally probably John McGraw because he has another big base of like teams that he has and college coaches that he attracts, and then he can also keep it under one roof. So like you got to kind of pay attention to that because if you're going to, I'm not spending money to go to Roses if I know my team isn't that great.
Right.
80 courts, okay, I'm go out there, they're still not going to be seen. So what's the difference?
Mm-hmm. No, that's
You
true.
just financially, it depends, but you can go if you want to, and if you got the money. I'm not knocking anybody who does it, but if you're trying to stay within your means, then that's what you do.
Yeah. Nah, that makes sense. You mentioned earlier you were talking about when you started merch and events, I think was like kind of where your revenue was coming from. Like what
Mhm.
does that look like now? Like what are like I guess you could say the streams from like Pass the Ball, like merch, events. What else does that look like within your business?
Within our business, we could do better. Like I said, I definitely need more help with the merch stuff because it's
Mm-hmm.
like we could be posting, we could be making a lot more than what we make, but we don't because I'm always busy on the road. And that's the thing when you have a business, you got to kind of outsource that to somebody else, or try to find some, trustworthy help. It's kind of hard to find good help, but you just got to have it. I would say if you had a team of three, you can make it happen, and y'all could really
Mm-hmm.
pop. But me, doing everything pretty much, it's hard to. I just got to strategize if I'm going to do it. If I have to do it
Right.
all, I just need to better organize or strategize to where it benefits. Because I would need to have the photo shoots. I would need to get the players to get there or whatever. Or because I mean we have good stuff that could really pop, but if you're not executing and putting action behind it, it's just gonna
It
sit.
don't matter. Yeah. Now, have you ever thought about like just taking a step back for a little bit and focusing on getting the help?
Yes, I try to do it. When that phone calls and the money calling, I'm not turning down no money.
Yeah. Facts.
So that's the issue I have saying no when I need it when I'm trying to reach a certain goal, because it's like I got things I'm trying to do and accomplish, but like I said, that'll always be there. But so basically, what I'm trying to do, I try to set my schedule in advance, but
Yeah.
then the schedule's up on you, and then you're just kind of like, oh shoot. But yeah, that's basically what I'm trying to do. Like merchant is gonna be there. I'm not really focused on it, but I need to. Right now, it's just planning out the schedule, making sure I have enough events each month um, to where I'm good, if that makes sense. So we have this, of course, basketball season is about to kick off. So live streaming is about to be another part of the plan. So we have college events on there that we got to do, in high school events. So
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty much the focus. Um,
And are you pretty much booked up the rest of the year?
uh, Probably not every weekend, but we have the weekends that we do are like holiday tournaments. So we're
Mm,
pretty much good for holiday. We're good for November and December and January.
got it. Will you be at the event next weekend in Dallas?
I will not, because that's CP3. CP3
Oh,
camp is
got
in
it.
Maryland. So like I
Got
said,
it.
if the money's calling, I gotta go. I
That's
can't
where
do
you're
free
gonna
stuff.
be. No, I
Yeah.
understand that. I understand that. And they CP3, how many events do they have?
I think they had like 5 stops this year. Because of course they already did Atlanta, DC, of course, Dallas is on the stop this year. I need to see if there's anywhere else, but I think it's 2 or 3 more stops left.
Are you doing all of those or just this one, the one in October?
DC, and I'm doing Dallas and whatever if they have a third stop on there too.
Got it. Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay. This was good. I feel like I learned a lot about pass the ball and more of what you do. So I love to hear that. Um yeah, I thought it was good. I know we kind of on a little bit of a time, so I want to make sure that you're able to get out and get done what you need to get done. We end this episode with rapid fire. So I got 5 things for you. You answer what comes to mind. You ready?
Okay. Hmm.
All right. The best event you've covered so far.
Like in my life,
Mm-hmm.
or like, oh man, I would say the women's Final four. That was crazy. I think like the past few years has just been crazy. I'm gonna just say women's Final Four. You can't touch that. They just
Okay.
been crazy. UConn has been beat when Mississippi State when I was at that one. After that, they've been crazy.
Okay. I love that. Your favorite current college player.
Caitlin Clark. Oh, she's so nasty. Caitlin Clark is CC. Caitlin Clark is very nasty.
Yes.
I'm a fan.
Who are you picking to win the championship this year? Women's.
This year, I'm trying to see if LSU can be beat this year. Who would take them for a run for their money? Who is a sleeper this year? Shoot. I'm trying to think of all the players that went. Man, I like Notre Dame and Ohio State right now.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna go those two sleepers right there.
Those two.
But if LSU wins, then hey, LSU wins. But do they get to play South Carolina this year? See, if I know how they do against South Carolina, then I know what to predict.
Then you'll know. I got it. I got it. Best basketball movie of all time.
Dang, I don't want to say Love and Basketball. I do not. Oh Lord, it's a classic. Let me go with. I guess let me go with Space Jam then.
Not Space Jam. Okay. And and what does Marissa like to do in her free time?
I have no free time, so
I
I'm
know.
over
That's
here.
why I asked the question because we're going to think of something.
Let's see, what else can I? What else am I good at? It's sad if I don't know.
That's why I was like, I'm definitely putting this on here because she be busy, busy. When is Marissa time and what does Marissa do in Marissa time?
Honestly, if I honestly just enjoy spending time with family when I do have it, because that's why I was like, you know what? I'm never home for my brother's birthday. I'm not going to John Lucas this year, so I was like, you know what? I'm focusing on family, so let me just do family. That's what I enjoy.
I love that. Okay. We started this podcast off with what is different in women's basketball. I like to end with the guess. What will be different with Marissa within the next 3 to 5 years? Marissa and or pass the ball.
I'll have more help, and you might see more better content from us. No, you will see better content from us. Put
Yes. All
it
right,
that
we
way.
holding Marissa to this because all these dope ideas she got, all the things that basketball is providing, she need help, y'all. So we gonna come back to this episode in 3 years, and we gonna know that she got her help. So I
There
love it. I love it. I have enjoyed this episode. Marissa, if you could tell everybody where to find you and leave a message for everybody listening, whatever you want, whatever's on your mind, whatever's on your heart, let the guests hear. I mean, let the audience hear it.
Yeah, for sure. You can follow us on Pass the Ball, both on Twitter and Instagram, TikTok. We're trying to get our Snapchat up. That one's something else, like trying to figure out that platform. But yeah, find us on Pass the Ball. Hopefully, we'll be at a gym near you. And then, like I said, just keep grinding. Try not to let the outside influence how you, I would say, not want necessarily want to be viewed, but don't let the distractions get to you. Like you see everybody else doing good, but don't let that mess up your, I guess, state of mind or peace, or distract you from. Don't ever hate on somebody else. That's for
Mm-hmm.
them. Focus on what you're good at, and if you do that, good things will happen to you. It'll start happening for you. So I would say that. Don't let that social media affect what you got going on.
I love it. I love it. Thank y'all for tuning in to another episode. I've enjoyed this episode. Hopefully you did too. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe on all platforms, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to your podcast. We'll be back for another episode next week.